My name is Katharina Alamany. I'm doing my presentation on action potential. Work comes from the experiment on the giant axon of the squid. And the giant axon extends from its head to its tail, and it's used to help it move. So neurons send messages electrochemically. It means that chemicals cause an electrical signal. Chemicals in the body are electrically charged. When they have an electric charge, they are called ions. The important ions in the nervous system are sodium and potassium, both having one positive charge. Calcium has two positive charges, and chloride, which has a negative charge. There are also some negatively charged protein molecules. It is also important to remember that nerve cells are surrounded by a membrane that allows some ions to pass through and blocks the passage of other ions. This type of membrane is called semi-permeable. Some key information that we need about this is that neural cell bodies in the mammalian central nervous system typically have more than a dozen distinct voltage-dependent conductances. The greater number of conductances compared to the squid's axons is associated with much more complex firing patterns than can be produced by the squid. Another thing is action potential shapes and firing patterns differ widely among different types of neurons. One recognizable phenotype is that of fast spiking neurons, which is capable of firing steadily at high frequencies and have narrow action potentials. This phenotype is typical of many interneurons and is associated with the expression of the Kv3 family of potassium channels. Some neurons with fast spiking behavior express resurgent sodium current, a component of tetroditoxin sensitive current that flows after the spike and promotes high frequency firing. Now let's move into some information on the calcium side of things. Most neurons have large calcium currents carried by multiple types of calcium channels. The calcium current is largest during the falling phase of the action potential, but is often outweighed by calcium activated potassium current, activated by extremely rapid coupling to calcium entry. Another is that potassium channels, commonly playing a major part in the repolarization of action potentials, include large conductance calcium activated potassium channels. Inactivation of potassium currents can produce frequency-dependent broadening of the action potential, which can produce synaptic facilitation. Potassium channels whose inactivation can lead to frequency-dependent spike broadening includes the BK channels and inactivating Kv1 family channels, which are located in the presynaptic terminals. Another point is that following the spike, many neurons have afterpotentials, including multiple types of after hyperpolarizations. This, with time courses lasting up to several seconds. Pyramidal neurons often have a prominent afterpolarization which, if large enough, can lead to all or none bursting. Currents active at sub-threshold voltages can greatly influence firing patterns and frequency. These include potassium currents, steady state persistent sodium currents, T-type calcium currents, and the hyperpolarization activated cation currents. The next point is the system of ion currents that controls action potential, shape, and firing patterns in the central neurons, although complex, has remarkable advantages for pursuing general problems in system biology, such as robustness and redundancy. It has highly quantifiable elements which are well suited to mathematical modeling. So in summary, we can go back to our thoughts on the giant squid and their axons and how it is a precursor to our understanding of the mammalian system. So the action potential of a squid's giant axon is formed by just two voltage-dependent conductances in the cell membrane. But yet, mammalian central nervous system neurons, they typically express more than a dozen different types of voltage-dependent ion channels. So it's much more complex than the original form that we were studying in the giant squid. This rich repertoire of channels that we see within the mammalian system allows neurons to encode information by generating action potentials with a wide range of shapes, frequencies, and patterns. Recent work offers an increasing detailed understanding of how the expression of particular channels and the different channel types underlies the remarkable diversity of the firing behavior of various types of neurons that we have seen. So to summarize everything in simple terms, we'll talk about why we need neurons, what they do, the action potential in simple terms. So every time you do something, from taking a step to picking up your phone, your brain transmits electrical signals to the rest of your body. These signals are called action potentials. Action potentials allow the muscles to coordinate and move with precision. They are transmitted by cells in the brain called neurons. So some key takeaway about what an action potential is. Action potentials are visualized as rapid rises and subsequent falls in the electrical potential across a neuron's cell membrane. The action potential propagates down the length of a neuron's axon, which is responsible for transmitting information to other neurons. Action potentials are all or nothing events that occur when a certain potential is reached, hence action potentials. Action potentials are conveyed by neurons, and neurons are responsible for coordinating and processing information about the world that is sent in through our senses, sending commands to our muscles in our body and relaying all of the electrical signals in between. The neuron is made up of several parts that allow it to transfer information through the body. Dendrites are branched parts of a neuron that receive information from nearby neurons. The cell body of the neuron contains its nucleus, which contains the cell's hereditary information and controls the cell growth and reproduction. The axon conducts electrical signals away from the cell body, transmitting information to other neurons at its ends or axon terminals. You can think of the neuron like a computer, which receives input, like pressing a letter key on your keyboard, through its dendrites, then giving you an output, seeing that letter pop up on your computer screen, for example. through its axon. In between, the information is processed so that the input result is the desired output. The definition of action potential is that action potential, also called spikes or impulses, occur when the electrical potential across a cellular membrane rises rapidly, then falls in response to an event. The entire process typically takes several milliseconds. A cellular membrane is a double layer of proteins and lipids that surrounds a cell, protecting its contents from the outside environment and allowing only certain substances in while keeping others out.